Okay, this is a brief overview of the Swix wax system. Swix has 5 different bars of wax within their line. You have CH4 all the way to 10, and then you're going to have that same temperature range in LF and also in HF waxes. 5 different bars, and you just pick the temperature for snow, and you look at the snow crystal to see what type of snow you're dealing with, and then you can make a selection off their wax chart for the appropriate wax for the conditions. The hydrocarbon line is the CH. That's going to be the most similar to the base material that is in the skis. The first racing wax is going to be LF, which is low fluoro, so it has a small bit of hydrophobic element fluoro in it. And then you get into HF, which is going to be high fluoro, and that's going to be the fastest for racing. Also in their line they have a base prep, which is for conditioning new skis. And the softer waxes from the base prep line are great for working in the thermal bag. They also make a base prep in a molly. Also in their line is going to be Sarah, which is high fluoro race waxes. You have your blocks, your powders, and your liquids. And all of those are going to be basically the same product, just different applications. Powders are going to be the best for rubbing on. For powdering a ski and ironing it in for the most durability. The block is going to be the best for just rubbing on the base and corking with most, I guess you could say, moderate durability. And then the liquid is going to be the easiest to apply, but it's going to give you the least amount of durability. They're all the same product. They offer it in all the same temperature ranges. It's just different applications. And then also from Swix, you get into the Nordic line. You have your kick waxes and your clisters. And that's a brief overview of the Swix line. The only other thing I can say that they've added within the last couple of years is the Glide Wax Cleaner. This is something that we use quite often just to condition the bases for new race wax. Alright, so these are some of the basic supplies that you're going to need when you're waxing skis. You're going to have a nice set of vices. You're going to want to use a center clamp when you're scraping your skis. Also, you're going to want to have the wax of the day. This is going to be a training hydrocarbon wax, and this is a low fluoro molly that we're going to be using. Also, we have 3 different brushes here. You're looking at the large steel brush from Swix. It's going to be a good first brush. A basic medium bronze brush, and then also finishing with a nylon brush. Another thing that we're going to have is a nice sharp scraper, some Glide Wax Cleaner, and good quality iron that's going to keep the temperature consistent while you're working on your skis. Okay, once we get our skis into the vices, we want to make sure that we clean the base material before we do any wax work. And the first thing we're going to want to do is take a nice, clean, sharp scraper and run it down from tip to tail, and make sure that any large debris, filings, anything like that is out of the base after you've done your edge work, or just clean the bases up in general. This is where I usually take like a larger steel brush and just clean out the base material and open up the pores of the skis a little bit. And after I do that, I often like to finish with a nylon brush just to make sure it's all clean and polished and ready for wax. Okay, a lot of times what I like to do when I'm waxing the ski is just rub a little bit of wax onto the base material to protect the base from the iron. This is going to help the base material from getting singed or burned before we lay the wax down. All the waxes are going to be really temperature specific with the iron, and usually it will be written right on the package what the temperature for the iron should be. And don't be afraid to use some wax. Make sure you put it on thick, especially with the hydrocarbon waxes, because they are pretty inexpensive, and this is going to help protect the ski from the iron and also make sure that the wax gets deep into the pores of the ski. Once you start ironing, it's really important to keep the iron moving, which is pretty easy to do with softer waxes, but more difficult with hard wax. I never like to see a wet trail behind the iron much bigger than the iron itself. And I like to limit the amount of passes that the ski gets with the iron. Usually within 2 passes, you can make sure that you get the wax deep into the base and edge to edge. So you can see after 2 passes, the wax is deep into the pores of the ski. You can actually see the cuts of the grind that exists in the ski. It's edge to edge, smooth, all the way from tip to tail. Important to clean the sidewalls off. And that's going to protect your tools in the long run. Any of the wax that's on the sidewalls won't get exposed to diamond stones or whatever you might be working with, files. And also, if you were going to put these skis into like a thermal bag or do more wax work, a lot of the wax will actually stay in the sidewalls, and it's more of an appearance thing than anything, but it's just good to keep the edges clean. Also, wax on the edges, sometimes in the summer, humidity or moisture can get underneath the wax and actually rust the edges there. Alright, so after we've waxed the skis and we let them cool to room temperature, probably about 20 minutes or so, it's time to scrape. And you want to make sure you start at the tip, work your way to the tail, nice sharp scraper. You want to hold it with your index fingers over the top and your thumb at the bottom. And nice even pressure. Scrape off as much wax as you can. You want the wax in the base material, not on top of it. So it's important to scrape off as much as you can. If you're having a hard time scraping the wax off, more than likely your scraper's not sharp enough. It's time to sharpen your scraper or get a new scraper. Once you have as much wax off as you can, then you go into your brushes. I like to do a brush progression with 3 different brushes, and start with the most aggressive, finish with the finest. And work in quarters. I like to brush the same amount each quarter as I work along the ski here. This helps clean the wax out of the cuts from the grind, and it also helps break in the grind and lets the skis fly faster. So now we're doing a medium brass. Any of the metal brushes as well, you have to make sure that you use them in one direction. Metal brushes, the bristles will lay over in one direction. If you ended up using that backwards, you could really do some damage. So make sure anything metal has an arrow on it and you use it in one direction. The nylon brushes you can scrub with and move back and forth. These are more for polishing. This really helps the grind stand out. That's how you wax your skis. So when you're all done waxing, scraping, and brushing, you can see that the grind is all clean No wax left behind, and the ski is highly polished and ready for skiing.